As we've discovered through our many explorations of strange materials used to make armors and weapons of fantastical proportions, we have to simply come to terms with the fact that the Elder Scrolls could come at us with anything through the wonders of magic. If you were to tell me that in Elder Scrolls 6 we would be able to wear armor made of magical clay that is as hard as steel, then I'd believe you. But before we would dive into the realm of theoretical armors, as exciting as that prospect may be, we do have many more materials of the current Elder Scrolls world we would want to investigate. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scott from Fudge Muppet, and welcome to another material investigation. During your adventures in the land of Skyrim, or perhaps even Morrowind, you'll likely at some point come across one of the extensive and elaborate ruins of the ancient Dwemer. Within these timeless sanctuaries, you come across copious amounts of the enigmatic copper-coloured metal called Dwarven metal. The reason I say enigmatic is because, like the Dwemer people themselves, mystery surrounds the metal, so much so that even modern scholars, mages and blacksmiths of Tamriel cannot unlock the marvels behind the material. As masters of metal and masonry, the Dwemer carved out their great underground cities, but it is not until you wander into one of these deep ruins that you truly understand the extent of their metalwork and craftsmanship. Steam piping, walkways, factories, gates, traps, door mechanisms, chests, orreries, armor, weapons, shields, plates, gears, and even cutlery are all made of this bronze-colored material. That, of course, is not even counting the Dwemer animunculi, or as they are also called, Dwarven automatons. These Dwemer machines are powered by steam power and magic, and they are made of the most complex mechanisms far beyond that of any other culture. Varieties of machine vary from worker to warrior, including the Dwarven spiders, sentries, spheres, archers, ballistae, centurions, and the fearsomely huge colossi. It is very clear that what the Dwemer create with their mysterious metal is remarkably advanced and complex, especially for a civilization of its time, but there lies a question unanswered. In our own real world of Earth, archaeological evidence is often scarce and at that ill-preserved because of the thousands of years of weathering and decay that the metals must endure. Rust is usually the fate of many great weapons and pieces of armor left to the ages. So how is it that all of this Dwarven technology, all of these steam-powered manufactories, all of the animunculi, all of the weapons and armor of warriors long gone, how is it all in the perfect condition today? How have these constructions not succumbed to the elements surrounding them? Well, interestingly enough, if we look to our own world's archaeological finds, we may have some clues. On Earth, we actually have quite a few artifacts from ancient eras that are made of bronze, which is a copper-tin alloy. Now, the properties of bronze include that it doesn't rust and is far more resistant to corrosion, which has allowed many Bronze Age artifacts, weapons, armor, jewelry, tools, and ornaments to be preserved in a recognizable state despite the fact that they are thousands of years old. If you take a good little look at Dwarven metal, it seems to, at least in appearance, be similar to copper and by extension bronze. So could this similarity explain why this metal can stand the test of time? Is Dwarven metal just like bronze? Well, unfortunately, as far as our world is concerned, that answer is no. If Dwarven metal was simply bronze, it should still corrode and discolor over thousands of years, meaning that many of these machines should be faulty and dysfunctional, yet somehow this Dwarven metal maintains its perfect form, not affected by time. Bronze is long-lasting stuff, but it does not maintain a perfect form for thousands of years. There is something else at work with the Dwarven metal. So with our investigation of real-world comparisons proving fruitless, it seems we must look to the Elder Scrolls lore itself and make sense of this stuff. Dwarven metal is presumably some kind of alloy, perhaps it's something like bronze, but a super Dwarven version, altered by magic perhaps. Dwarven metal is described as a heavy exotic metal, copper in color, though it can also be yellow, grey or green, and it's also attributed with being resistant to corrosion, as well as possessing distinctive impact absorbing capabilities and the ability to retain a sharp edge. What makes the metal far more mythological and mysterious is the fact that it cannot be replicated. Metallurgists have tried to replicate the metal for thousands of years since the Dwemer's disappearance, but to no avail. Calcimo of Markarth has spent over 200 years studying the enigmatic Dwemer, and he only had this to say about their coveted metal in the book authored by him simply titled Dwarves, the Lost Race of Tamriel. Metalwork, as far as we know, is the primary method used to make almost all Dwarven crafts. We cannot, however, discount more easily destructible materials such as clay, paper, and glass from outside the scope of Dwarven craftsmanship, but given the tendency of Dwarven design to favour the long-lasting over the fragile, we can safely assume that, at the very least, metal was a heavy preference. And the metal used in all so far discovered Dwarven relics is entirely unique to their culture. No other race has replicated whatever process was used to create Dwarven metal, although it can be easily mistaken for bronze, and in fact many forgers of Dwarven materials use bronze to create their fake replicas. It is most definitely a distinct type of metal of its own. I have personally seen metallurgists attempt to combine several different types of steel and common and rare ores in order to imitate Dwarven metal's exclusive properties. But the only method that has been successful is to melt down existing Dwarven metallic scraps and start over from there. So as Calcemo wrote, in order to make armor or weapons that match the quality of the ancients, then one must melt down sources of Dwarven metal, for there is no hope of recreating the stuff from scratch. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what the Dwarven armor and weapons you make are made of. The Dwarven armor is made from Dwarven metal, aka ingots of melted down Dwemer machinery, cutlery, and all sorts of bits and bobs. You merely have to look at the Dwarven armor and weaponry to see a consistent aesthetic theme that runs through all Dwemer creations. The geometric and angular weaponry matches their cultural mindset of pragmatism and logic. The faces of their helmets bear resemblance to the faces of their Dwarven centurions, a truly fearsome sight. For if you were ever on the field of battle against a Dwemer army, it is likely you would not be able to distinguish man from machine. Once again, let's refer to the resident Dwarven expert of Skyrim, Calcemo, for more insight. Unlike many other cultures still existing today, the dwarves built and relied on increasingly complicated machines for a wide variety of martial tasks, and weapons and armor created solely for the purpose of being wielded by Dwarven warriors show remarkably fewer points of progress beyond the basic designs. Let us begin by analysing those basic weapons and armors. Anyone who has held a Dwarven axe or worn a Dwarven helmet can testify as to the ancient everlasting quality of Dwarven craftsmanship. Weapons do not deviate too greatly from their base function. Dwarven swords pierce through light armors with incredible effectiveness, owing primarily to the remarkable sharpness of tempered Dwarven metal, and owing to a far lesser extent to its simple, double-edged design. Compare and contrast a sharp, angular Dwarven dagger to a curved Elven blade, and it becomes a small logical leap to say that Dwarven weaponsmiths relied almost exclusively on creating quality materials first, and merely allowed the form of those materials to flow from the method that weapon was intended to kill people. As a culture that built almost exclusively underground, it's no surprise that Dwarven armors are built to withstand incredibly heavy blows. Again, the fact that they are also resistant to being pierced by arrows or small blades is more of a testament to superior Dwarven metallurgy over superior Dwarven armor smithing, but it would be erroneous to thus conclude that Dwarven smiths did not take the manufacture of their weapons and armor very seriously. Every piece of warcrafts I have examined show a remarkable amount of unnecessary detailing and personalization that is just as evident today among the most ardent blacksmiths. A Dwarven smith probably came from long tradition that distinguished itself in a way that, say, the grip of a mace would feel, or the design of the head of individual arrows, although due to the paltry lack of any cultural artifacts outside the weapons and armors themselves, this is only mere speculation. So we understand Dwarven armor and weapons in their functionality and design, but still we have the unresolved question. How oh how does the metal remain in such perfect condition? What is it that prevents the metal from corroding and returning to the earth? What is it about this metal that allows it to stand the test of time? To understand Dwarven metal, it seems we must first understand the fundamental powers of the Dwemer that separated them from all other cultures of Tamriel at the time. Tonal architecture. You may have heard such words uttered here and there in a lore video, but let me explain in the simplest way possible. The reality of the Elder Scrolls is made of many vibrations, which is similar to that of a piece of music or a song. We all know that most magic is done via magicka that leaks into Mundus through the sun and stars. Well, tonal architecture, along with the Thum of the Nords and sword singing of the Yakudans, are types of reality-bending magics that don't require magicka. These three reality-bending techniques also have common musical themes to their titling. The voice, or thum, is literally shouting, sword singing, and tonal architecture as in tone. Anyways, of the three techniques, tonal architecture is thought to be the most advanced. Through tonal architecture, the Dwemer gained an incredible understanding about the nature of reality and were able to develop amazingly powerful tools that could manipulate the reality of the Orbis, the universe. This power, tonal architecture, is what allowed them to clear great amounts of subterranean rock for their cities by altering reality and willing the rock to never be there. This power is also what allowed them to preserve their great cities, their armor and machines, and of course, by extension, their metal. They changed the laws of reality for their creations. They stopped their creations from experiencing the flow of time. So if you were to look at a piece of Dwarven metal and compare it to another similar metal not of Dwarven origin, the reason one lasts and the other does not is simply because the Dwarven metal does not experience the flow of time, therefore it never degrades. It is metal of timelessness, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Dwemer armor and weapons work. That is the curious case of Dwarven metal, a metal so ancient and everlasting it cannot be replicated. The art of tonal architecture is long lost, as the Dwemer are themselves, so it seems until somehow the people of Tamriel figure out tonal architecture, they will be left pondering at the creations of the Dwemer, unable to recreate them without sources of original Dwarven metal melted down from their ancient creations. Thanks so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott from Fudge Muppet. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did. Do subscribe for more fantastic Elder Scrolls lore goodness. Thanks again. We really appreciate your support so much. And I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.